Hello everyone, Nigat here, and welcome to Game 2 of the Grand Finals of the $500 Littlewargame Tournament that was hosted by ItanoCircus on July 8th. Game 1, results were in the last YouTube video, was a very close match between Sqrtofneg1 and his opponent WeirdRat, where Sqrtofneg1 went for a fantastic mech opening. WeirdRat trying to go for a 3-base strong push, basically an all-in, was not able to get the results he wanted. And now we are on the second map, which is Junction. Very large map actually, with a lot of bases actually. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, just on this side of the map. Then we have 1, 2 additional bases, and then we have these middle bases over here on the left and right side. So how many bases then is that? That's like 6, 7, 8, like 16 bases perhaps for 6, so 14 bases. So in total, very big map. It's the largest map, especially at the time, for the Littlewargame ranked map pools, and as a result we typically see very eco-centric openings, especially as you can get away with a lot of greedy build orders on this map. So things like Castle First have been seen quite a lot of times, but WeirdRat decides to go for a different kind of opening. He decides to go for a Raider expand, so I think this is going to be just one Raider, trying to make sure that he's going to be safe and get all the scouting information he needs in case his opponent is going for anything tricky. In this case, Sqrtofneg1 is just going for a tried and true fast expand into 2 den. It's pretty clear once we see that 1 den go down that it's going to be a 2 den. Very safe opening, especially on Sylvan Charm. Let's go ahead and talk about the pick and ban phase that occurred for this tournament. It was how the tournament was organized was the first player, which was WeirdRat in this case, would pick the first map, and then the second player would pick the second map that they would get to play on. So WeirdRat chose to play on Ravaged for the first game, which is where he lost, and Sqrtofneg1 decided to play the second game. He chose Junction, which is an entirely different map. Like, everything about these two maps are almost opposites. The distance, the travel time between the two bases is massive considered to Ravaged, with Ravaged being the smallest map in the map pool that we had for this tournament. WeirdRat Scout does arrive at the other end of the base, so he is able to confirm, or the other edge of the map rather, he is able to confirm that this is a fast expand. So he is going to be behind a little bit in terms of economy, especially as Sqrtofneg1 has his expand finished and mining from, whereas WeirdRat just got that finished. Sqrtofneg1 sending a worker to the other side of the map here. I noticed this on the mini map, but was kind of curious about what is going on. So looks like Sqrtofneg1 is about to answer that for us. It's arrived. Don't know what he's going for necessarily, but he is deciding to go for a wolf's den. So potentially some sort of tricky play that's going on here. Not exactly sure what it's supposed to do, but I think we're going to find out together. WeirdRat going for some scouting information, so he has the Raider on the map, and now he is going to follow up with mech. So he has the expand. Ooh, what kind of mech are we following up with? No, that's just a house. Okay, that's actually a late house. Typically you get the house before you get the workshop. We have some more scouting. Sqrtofneg1 feeling safe enough to send his horses. No, not his horses, his wolves. A little bit of a surprise. Out around the map, notices that the Raider is coming and controls his wolves to kind of harass this Raider. WeirdRat gets the scouting information in. Sqrtofneg1 has a lot of options for what he could go for. He needs to build a house soon, but Oh, okay. That was actually a surprise. So, uh, Square Root decides to get his wolf's den here. He finishes it, and perhaps this could have been a proxy wolf's den. Maybe he was going for a 3-base pressure. He even scouts, his opponent. He's trying to get some psychological warfare by saying, "Hey, this is kind of suspicious." But he has decided to build a werewolf's den, and he is going to use some collision mechanics in Littlewargame to try to do a little bit of a proxy werewolf harassment to his opponents. So, in case you're unaware, werewolves are gigantic units. When they pop out of their production area, they're like 3 squares large, wide, I guess. Maybe they're just 2 squares wide, but they need somewhere to pop out of. And if you block the production of your building fully in, but you leave room, like Square has left room, it will automatically pop up to the nearest free space, which is above this ledge. So it looks like Square has decided to start up that werewolf. He has the werewolf den completely blocked in, and he is going to go for this harassment. WeirdRat at the same time, let's go ahead and take a look at his vision, see what he scouted out. So WeirdRat was able to scout out Square Root's bases, and he was able to scout out his tech, but he didn't see any. So this wasn't a fortress. There wasn't any additional dens at home. It was pretty much just there's like almost 400 gold that's floating that WeirdRat doesn't know about. It's actually more than that. It's close to 1,000 now. But we do see that werewolf pop out of the werewolf den here. WeirdRat responds immediately by sending the workers away. He happened to have these gyrocraft as he was going into a mill build, and now Sqrtofneg1, he's pretty much getting a build order countered here without even realizing that this was going on. So Square Root, he's pretty much going to lose that for free. WeirdRat is now going to be seeing the werewolf den here, and now he has the gyrocraft to kind of deal with this. So Square Root's proxy werewolf den doesn't look like it's gonna work out just as well as he was hoping for. WeirdRat placing this house. So again, how the building mechanics work is that if this area is blocked, the werewolf won't be able to spawn up here. It'll probably actually spawn closer to this area or to this area. But WeirdRat being able to scout that out. At one point, I think I saw Square Root going for a 3rd base, but I think he had to cancel that, either to get the 3rd raider or perhaps because he was getting scouted by, or the 2nd werewolf rather, or he was getting scouted by the raider. A little bit of Freudian slip as I was thinking about the raiders. Square Root is able to scout out that WeirdRat has gone for a 3rd base here. Square Root trying to get some pressure in. Perhaps he feels like there's an advantageous fight he can do here. Soldiers are going to be very strong against this. WeirdRat pulling workers to defend against this. Catapults are getting a lot of damage in against these wolves. We do see that one wolf is surrounded. I think he got some really good trades there, actually. Square Root surprisingly got some good trades with a lot of archers going down there. At the same time, WeirdRat does arrive to the other side of the map with these gyrocraft. So Square Root doesn't have anything that can shoot up except for these 2 advanced workshops. So he realized that WeirdRat was so advanced in his threat with these gyrocraft that he had to get 2 advanced workshops, which are workshops that specialize in building this ballista unit, which is highly effective at dealing with ranged units there. Square Root basically sending some wolves in, doing a little bit of a trick where if you can keep these wolves right in the center of the worker line here, and your opponent has catapults, there's a possibility of getting these catapults to do some friendly fire. At the same time, Square Root sending his ballista forward to basically get these gyrocraft away from his workers. WeirdRat getting a few kills with these. Let's go ahead. 4 kills with one of these gyrocraft, which is very nice to see. Very nice to see indeed. Let's go ahead and take a look at production. So we do see that Sqrtofneg1 did just finish up the black powder upgrade for the ballista, which is something that's very nice about getting 2 advanced workshops, is you're able to quickly establish your anti-air units, which is the 2 ballista plus the airship with the black powder upgrades. And now you should have everything you need to deal with a lot of ranged units, which is really good to see. So both playing into each other, both being able to answer each other's counters. Sqrtofneg1 losing a lot of gold just from losing these houses. So the amount of investment that went into that one werewolf, the werewolf den, as well as these houses here, was probably close to 1,000 gold. And if we take a look at the income, Sqrtofneg1, that's about right. So we can see that Sqrtofneg1 has lost about 1,000 more gold than his opponent, while also mining less. So WeirdRat just sticking with the very standard racks opening into this catapult play, going for this gyrocraft, basically being efficient, being safe, has allowed him to kind of secure a strong economic opening. Sqrtofneg1, WeirdRat, seeing he's getting engaged by a lot of these ballista here, and as we can see, just like that, Sqrtofneg1 loses close to 500 gold worth of ballista just from taking a random encounter in the middle of the map. Gyrocraft do scout out the wolves. Guess they can't stay long because they don't know where these airship filled with ballista might be. Looks like Sqrtofneg1 is going to be producing 2 more ballista. With that, we'll see a total of 5 ballista. That's 20 supply worth of ballista that Sqrtofneg1 has going on, which is about 1/4 of his total supply. That is a lot of supply in ballista, especially when you don't really know what your opponent is going for in terms of a follow-up. WeirdRat going for additional racks. Actually, he's going up to 4 racks. He does have the gyrocraft, which is good to see. Those are great for moving around. Not producing any additional gyrocraft simply because having too many gyrocraft could become a detriment when it cuts into the supply of your main army. So Sqrtofneg1 trying to deny WeirdRat's 4th base with this minimal supply of wolves, while getting a 4th base of his own, trying to just kind of get back into the game a little bit. Because remember, Sqrtofneg1 has lost a lot of investment and a lot of initiative, actually, just because that werewolf proxy didn't work out the best way it could have. However, he's managing to come back into the game. He's probably only about 600 gold behind, whereas earlier he was far behind, maybe a little bit more behind, but trying to catch up, especially with this 4th base getting started and finishing up. Let's go ahead and take a look at the units. So we do see that both of them are on exactly 33 workers, so they should be mining about the same amount. We do see that Sqrtofneg1 is producing more workers now, so that worker count is going to grow for Sqrtofneg1. And at the same time, Sqrtofneg1's only army is the 9 wolves. If Sqrtofneg1 didn't have the 9 wolves on the map, then he would have no ground army at all. It's all wolves and these 5 ballista and the two airships, right? He needs to be producing more ground army. Like this is so little ground army, but perhaps this is the reason why Sqrtofneg1 decided to play on stream Junction, right? Because when his opponent decides to move, well, it's a big map, so if your opponent decides to move onto the other side of the map to attack you, you have a lot of time to prepare and get your defenses up. You do see that Sqrtofneg1 is able to drop these ballista in time to do some damage. I think all those gyrocraft targeted this airship and it almost died immediately. Let's go ahead and look at the upgrades of the gyrocraft. It was about 6 gyrocraft. They do 12 damage plus +2 because it looks like WeirdRat is finishing up some upgrades, one of them being the +1 attack upgrade for the mechanical units. So that's really nice to see. Both players going up to 40 workers. That's about the most efficient number of workers you can have on 4 bases. Technically, it's 11. No, 10. 10 is the most efficient. 11 is probably going to get you the most gold, but getting 40 workers around that worker count is going to be great, especially now that you're at the 40 or the 4 base mark. So now it's just a matter of tech and units that are being produced. So Sqrtofneg1 is moving his army around. He's going to be able to scout around. Looks like WeirdRat is, he is getting some tech. We actually see it. He's decided to get a Mages Guild. Very, very excited to see if mages come into play here. He has the catapults that he could take advantage of. He has these gyrocraft that are giving him the map pressure. I kind of want to see what Sqrtofneg1 is going for. So he has access to snakes. He has a fortress now, so he is able to get dragons, but we don't see any dragons just yet. We see ballista. We definitely need to see these ballista being dropped. Wolves can't really do anything against the gyrocraft otherwise. And we see Sqrtofneg1 trying to get one of these side bases. So in my opinion, I think this base is probably the best 5th or 4th base to go for, just because you can easily maneuver units and rotate units between your 4th, your 3rd, and your 4th base just through this ramp here. It's a very defensive position. But Sqrtofneg1 trying to go for a very sneaky position, and WeirdRat is going to be able to scout this out, basically trying to go around this alley to do some damage to Sqrtofneg1's 4th base here. And inadvertently, WeirdRat finds this base, and Sqrtofneg1 is not in position to defend it. So just as I was mentioning earlier, this is a very hard base to defend. Sqrtofneg1 does get snakes. So the tech he decided to go into was snakes here. So wolves and snakes. Typically the next stage of this is getting werewolves. Looks like Sqrtofneg1's main base is just mined completely out of workers. And this looks dangerous. WeirdRat with 150 supply of racks is going to be far superior than 150 supply of beast, simply because wolves and soldiers, they're both 2 supply each, but soldiers are the superior unit. They have more health, they have more damage, they have more armor, they have a better attack. They're so tanky, they're able to take on multiple wolves at the same time. So this is a very scary push, but however, Sqrtofneg1 was able to get this flank going. WeirdRat with these gyrocraft though are going to be very hard for the snakes to kill. These catapults basically one-shotting the snakes, and now Sqrtofneg1 is in a very, very hard position to defend here. WeirdRat basically doing a really good job of keeping his army together, using his catapults to now harass this worker line. If that one lands, it's going to be able to one-shot some of these. Looks like catapult was not able to do that. Sqrtofneg1 streaming in reinforcements, sending them to rally. Now he's sending them to rally at the top of the space, but he's probably going to have to just give up on this expand, which means that Sqrtofneg1 is going to be on 2 base, while WeirdRat is getting his his 5th base situated. So he's going to be on 4 mining bases. Sqrtofneg1 does finally get this base going on, so that was the base I would have preferred for his 4th, but it looks like he's going to lose this base. He does get dragons now, so dragons, very, very solid units, very healthy units for a flying unit, able to deal with things like these gyrocraft. Archers, they are in good supply here, so they will be able to ward things away, like those dragons, but dragons will be able to take cost-efficient trades. Something that I've been thinking about more recently would be the inclusion of priests in Rax armies. We typically don't see them very often because they cost a lot, churches cost a lot, priests aren't the most cost-efficient units, but because Sqrtofneg1 is playing into a Rax. No, Sqrtofneg1 is playing into a Rax-based army. No, WeirdRat is playing into a Beast-based army. That's very funny. It took me a while to get there. It would be good to get some sort of health regeneration, especially on things like these soldiers when they get into very low health ranges like that. Sqrtofneg1 losing a dragon for free, basically being hunted down by these gyrocraft, having to kind of fight in range of these gyrocraft, but losing the airship simply because those gyrocraft were focusing down the airship there. So now Sqrtofneg1 is going to be able to pick up these ballista, and then he'll recover his kind of anti-air defense force. But let's go ahead and take a look at supply again. Sqrtofneg1 on 100 supply of beast. WeirdRat on about 130 supply of Rax. This is not going to be good if WeirdRat loses these archers. Those are very valuable, very vulnerable also to wolves. Looks like WeirdRat is deciding to move on to the other side of the map. At the same time, we do see that mages are fully on the field now. So WeirdRat establishing more bases and sending a very, very strong, very heavy push here. These soldiers and mages in high supply. The mages will be fantastic for dealing with ground-based armies. These soldiers are going to be able to clean everything else up. Some archers to deal with the dragons as well. Oh, it looks like we see... So yeah, so basically Sqrtofneg1 is trying to get some map control, but he doesn't realize that WeirdRat is also on the map with a very strong push here, trying to deal some damage. Sqrtofneg1 responding by sending his wolves around, just picking off some reinforcements. WeirdRat pushing forward, making a statement, approaching with these mages, placing slow fields just to make sure he doesn't get surrounded. These are slow fields that are, infinite, well, not infinite duration. They have a certain amount of time that they can be, on the ground before they go away, but drastically slowing down any enemy units that enter into those slow fields, which allow him to cover his army, make it safe from surrounds, but also makes it so that he can approach and retreat safely after dealing some damage to Sqrtofneg1's base here. So Sqrtofneg1 lost a tower, some workers, as well as 2 dens. So WeirdRat basically just poking in, getting some meaningful damage on his opponent. At the same time, WeirdRat is going to be scouting out the fact that this base is currently up. I'm sure he'll send a detachment at some point to deal with that. Sqrtofneg1 losing his ballista, which is not going to be very good, especially if WeirdRat ever decides to go back into these mills. Yeah, very heavy push from Sqrtofneg1, or from WeirdRat rather. Basically starting from this edge of the map, and then able to kind of move over, rotating from the 3rd to the 4th base, eliminating the 4th base, and now going to be eliminating the 3rd base as well. WeirdRat placing down these slow fields to try to trap the dragons, fireballs onto the workers to get that kind of dealt with. Meanwhile, does look like Sqrtofneg1 is going to be trying to defend against these catapults. WeirdRat, I think he was trying to set up a catapult shot over here, but looks like the wolves were able to stop that from happening. Sqrtofneg1 trying to go for some pressure of his own. WeirdRat defended with these 3 towers, especially with WeirdRat going for such a heavy push. It's going to be very hard for Sqrtofneg1 to kind of stop this. And now WeirdRat approaching the natural is going to be able to get rid of all of Sqrtofneg1's production. And this is not a base trade scenario. This is just WeirdRat taking over the bases here. It looks like Sqrtofneg1 did go for a little bit of a werewolf drop. I can't believe I missed that the entire time this was going on. So WeirdRat was able to go for a werewolf drop in this location. Looks like he got a lot of workers, but alas, he is lost all of his production in his natural. And WeirdRat might decide to send just a couple of soldiers to deal with the rest of these whereas he moves the rest of his army to kind of deal with the remaining bases. Square root 90 supply versus WeirdRat's completely max supply. I will say that these catapults could be very problematic for an approaching army. They are tremendously valuable, or very efficient against armies like this that try to approach. As we could see, WeirdRat losing about almost want to say about 30 supply in the approach, but was able to kind of deal with these catapults eventually. Square root losing his third base, and now he's just going to be on one final remaining base on fully mech defensive kind of army setup here. He's got 4 workshops, which is as defensive as it gets, and so perhaps Square root believes he can stick this one out. He's definitely going to be playing for the win, especially given the fact that this is a tournament game, and if Square root wins this game, then the bracket will reset. But it does not look like it will reset. So Square root GG's, and WeirdRat becomes the winner of match 2 in the best of 3 for the grand finals of Little Wargame, $500 Little Wargame tournament. If WeirdRat wins the next game, then he becomes the winner of the $500 Little Wargame tournament hosted by ItanoCircus. If Square root wins the next game, then the bracket will reset and we'll have another best of 3. Both of the players will be in the losers grand finals bracket, and whoever wins that best of 3 series, if we get to that point, will win the $500 Little Wargame tournament, which is the biggest prize pool we've ever had in Little Wargame, and it's massive. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like. Go ahead and subscribe if you want to continue to watch more videos about Little Wargame, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the next one.